Hi, I'm Colton McKinney, and I chose to do my assignment 4 presentation on nutrition relative to cognitive function, specifically in elderly people. So, in the first study, researchers took 65 frail or pre-frail elderly people aged 77 to 93 and split them into two groups, one receiving a 15-gram protein shake twice a day, and the other group receiving a 0-gram protein shake, a placebo drink, so they wouldn't be able to tell the difference. So in order to be part of this research study, participants had to not have any chronic diseases such as COPD, liver failure, or cancer, and they also had to not have an exercise routine in the past 2 years. Participants were ran through a series of tests such as word learning tests, memory tests, reaction time tests, and word fluency tests of animals and letters in order to see the correlation between protein and cognitive function. Also, in order to keep variables low and protein levels regulated throughout groups, dietitians track their daily dietary intakes. So when it comes to results, there's actually little evidence that shows cognitive improvement, but there is significant evidence that shows reaction time improvement. As you can see, protein supplement average is quite higher than the placebo supplement average. So my second research study that I did is actually really interesting. It talks about the effects of Haskap berry extract on cognition, mood, and blood pressure in older adults. So in this study, researchers took 20 older adults aged 62 to 81 and split them into two groups, one with a placebo drink and one with a drink that actually had Haskap berry extract in it. Also, participants who were smokers, diabetics, or taking antidepressants or anticoagulants were excluded due to potential of variable results. Anyway, just like in the first research study, participants were asked to keep a record of their dietary intake for the past 24 hours before exams, and they were actually asked to fast 12 hours before their tests. So in one of the tests, participants were given a recording of 15 words and then immediately asked to list off as many as possible that they remember. And then 15 minutes after that, they were given a word bank of 50 words and asked to pick those 15 words out of the word bank. Participants were also given big numbers and were asked to subtract 3s and 7s over and over on number pads, and researchers tracked their accuracy and results. They also recorded blood pressure, heart rate, mood, and reaction time, just like the last research study. So it's actually pretty interesting. The group with the Haskap berry extract actually showed cognitive improvement, which means like faster reaction times and fewer errors in tests. Results also actually showed that diastolic blood pressure and heart rate was lower after taking Haskap berry extract in relation to the placebo group. So the third article is actually really interesting also. It talks about the correlation between low vitamin D and depression in older Dutch adults. This was actually a huge study done with over 2,839 Dutch elderly people who were over 65 years old, and they were all taking vitamin D and folate supplements. All of the participants didn't know exactly what they were taking, though, however, because some of them, half of them, were taking a placebo, and the other half were taking 15 UGs of vitamin D and folate. So participants tracked themselves on the 15-point geriatric depression scale. This is a universally used depression scale used by like therapists and nursing homes, and it's actually pretty sad. It's used to measure chronic depression in older people. They also track the diabetes data and progress through blood sugar tests. So blood samples were taken pre and post experiment, and also a questionnaire about height, weight, alcohol, and tobacco consumption, etc. Participants were also questioned about if they had diabetes. Researchers were curious about the correlation between vitamin D and diabetes, so participants tracked that as well. So in conclusion to this study, researchers did find that in some cases vitamin D could improve mood, but it had no substantial correlation with genetic makeup. They also couldn't find any substantial evidence that it had a genetic correlation with diabetes. This is actually really interesting because a lot of people believe that vitamin D can help alleviate depression, but this study doesn't necessarily show that. Researchers hypothesize that this could be largely due to a placebo effect of taking vitamin D, but they recommend other studies to be conducted to further this conclusion. So yeah, like I said, results from this study show no correlation with mood, no correlation with diabetes, but this is just one study. This is not 100% definite. Results may vary, and especially in a large study like this with over 2,000 people, there's a lot of variables that can differ. So yeah, here are my citations. You guys can go check those out if you want. They're actually really interesting, and I enjoyed reading them. So yeah, thank you for watching.